Welcome to this deep dive, where we unpack the blueprints of complex systems. The kind of systems that, well, they really determine whether a massive alliance thrives, stumbles, or fails entirely.
We often look at alliances in terms of, political declarations or military hardware, but the real engine of power, the silent mechanism that dictates success or failure, is the organizational chart.
Command architecture.
Exactly. It's the bureaucracy of command, and without it, the finest equipment in the world is, frankly, useless.
Absolutely. And our mission statement today is critical. We are tackling a core structural element of this proposed Muslim-NATO alliance, the command architecture itself. We've been given source material detailing the entire military chain of command, from the Supreme Allied Commander right down to the highly specialized functional units.
And we need to answer the ultimate question for any large organization that's aiming for strategic influence. Who commands it, and how does it actually operate when the pressure is on? This deep dive, it's about defining the very skeleton of the proposed alliance. Without this precisely defined hierarchy, unified action isn't just difficult, it's functionally impossible.
So we'll be meticulously defining the roles of the Supreme Command, the layered regional structure, and these hyper-specialized operational forces. And crucially, we're going to focus on how this structure is, well, it seems engineered to blend hard military strategic power with institutional checks and balances.
It's something the architects clearly took great pains to design into the system from the ground up.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Why is structure the starting point? The source material is remarkably candid about this. It argues that the historical failure of past Muslim coalitions, it wasn't due to a lack of courage or commitment or even resources.
Yeah.
It was squarely due to a lack of command structure and, critically, a lack of institutionalized trust.
That historical analysis of failure is the absolute bedrock of this new blueprint. The designers are consciously trying to overcome these deeply ingrained political and military obstacles that have just plagued past joint military efforts.
I mean, it makes sense. When member states commit troops to a coalition, historically, those troops still answer primarily to their national capitals, right?
Right, precisely. And that inherent ambiguity in the chain of command, it leads to critical failures in communication, delayed responses, and at the end of the day, strategic incoherence.
So the goal here is to eliminate those specific pitfalls.
Yeah.
And I have to think the #1 item on that elimination list has to be dual loyalties.
It's paramount. The source material highlights 4 crucial obstacles that must be structurally eliminated for this alliance to succeed. And first, like you said, is eliminating those dual loyalties.
Because if a commander in the field has to wait for clearance from the Joint Alliance HQ and their home country's defense ministry during a fast-moving crisis,
That delay is lethal. The blueprint requires full integration under the alliance banner, period.
And the second obstacle speaks to operational integrity, preventing independent actions by member states. I mean, you cannot have a truly unified front if one member just decides to conduct a major offensive unilaterally because it suits their own political timeline.
It immediately fractures trust. It creates unpredictable theaters of operation. And then the third, and this is crucial for long-term stability and professionalism, is insulating the military sphere from raw political interference in operational decisions.
So politicians set the strategy, the mandate. But once the operation is running, the generals have to be allowed to command.
They have to, without constant interruptions or, micromanagement from political leaders. The source emphasizes that operational decisions must be made solely by military professionals who report vertically within the command structure, not horizontally to competing capitals.
And the fourth obstacle, which is really the inevitable outcome of the first three, is eliminating unclear authority during crises.
Yes. If nobody knows whose order takes precedence during the most chaotic, high-stakes moments, the inevitable result is paralysis, and paralysis is a strategic defeat.
Okay, so to counteract this, the source material identifies what it calls the 5 pillars of alliance survival. This is the non-negotiable checklist for the organization's long-term health.
And it's meant to ensure that these structural choices actually translate into functional military reality. So first, you need that clear hierarchy, a defined vertical chain of command, no ambiguity.
Second, unified decision-making.
Yeah.
So processes that force consensus or at least rapid action, avoiding that single veto paralysis.
Third is joint standards and harmonization. Now, this is a massive undertaking involving standardizing equipment, procedures, communications across incredibly diverse national armies.
Then fourth, synchronized operations, making sure that when forces are deployed, they move together using the same doctrine, speed, and objective focus.
And finally, fifth, Disciplined leadership. You need commanders who prioritize the alliance mandate over their national interests during a deployment.
I have to stop you there. Pillar number 3, that harmonization of equipment and procedures. That sounds less like a pillar and more like a logistical nightmare.
It is the single biggest technical challenge.
I mean, it's one thing to agree to a common goal, but it's a completely different thing to make I don't know, a Saudi tank communicate seamlessly with a Pakistani infantry unit using Turkish radio protocols.
Well, harmonization means shared logistics chains, common ammunition calibers where possible, and most importantly, joint maintenance standards. If a jet from one nation lands at an allied base, that base needs to be able to refuel it, arm it, and service it regardless of the manufacturer.
And that's why the blueprint describes the proposed system as a clear, modern, NATO plus Islamic command system.
Exactly. They are adapting the integrated military command model of NATO, which, perfected standardization over decades, but they're weaving in these essential regional and religious imperatives to ensure internal legitimacy.
That plus Islamic element is the thread we have to keep pulling on. It's an acknowledgement that military effectiveness has to be paired with religious and institutional legitimacy within the member states.
Especially when you're talking about sensitive regional dynamics and, of course, the protection of sacred sites. The structure isn't just about fighting effectively. It's about achieving a deep-seated cohesion and acceptance across multiple and sometimes historically rivalrous capitals.
Right. So here's where the political engineering really begins. Defining the absolute top brass. The core architecture establishes this deliberate dual headquarters setup. It's designed for both operational effectiveness and institutional balance.
You have the military command in Islamabad and this balance and legitimacy center in Riyadh.
What's fascinating here is that deliberate structural division of power right at the apex.
It is. Unlike an organization like, say, the U.S. Department of Defense, where you might have centralized political and military functions, this alliance immediately creates a split, and that's to manage the inherent geopolitical friction between South Asian military power and the Gulf's political and religious gravity.
Okay, so let's start with the ultimate military authority, the Supreme Allied Commander, or SAC. The location is Islamabad, which is designated as the HQ of the military command. This is the highest military position, the operational pivot.
And the mandatory requirements for this position are incredibly strict. They point directly to the extreme strategic scope of the alliance. This isn't a role for just regional skirmishes. It demands professionalism capable of handling existential threats.
So the SAC must be a 4-star Muslim general with extensive experience in joint operations. But the source adds a fascinating, almost alarming requirement that just elevates the stakes dramatically.
The nuclear knowledge.
They must possess strategic nuclear knowledge.
That requirement is a clear, non-negotiable statement of strategic intent. It tells you that this alliance views itself as a potential counter-deterrent on the global stage, operating at the highest level of strategic consultation.
So if the alliance intends to leverage nuclear consultation, which is explicitly listed under the SAC's mandate, the commander has to be a professional who understands the dynamics, the risks, the command structures of strategic deterrence.
It's not optional, and that requirement, it inherently limits the candidate pool drastically.
Of course, it makes it likely only certain nations can supply a candidate with that specific, verified expertise.
Exactly. It dictates that the alliance's ultimate military leader will come from a nation with established strategic capability, reinforcing the strategic leadership role of those states. It sets the tone. This is an alliance built on high-stakes deterrence, not just peacekeeping.
And yet, to ensure this powerful figure doesn't become some kind of dictator beholden only to their home country, this top commander must be approved by all member states. That is a huge political check on that military power.
It is a deliberate check, designed to ensure legitimacy and buy-in, but it also raises an immediate risk, which is paralysis. If one or two minor member states, leveraging this political check, decide to veto a candidate for their own political reasons, the alliance could find itself without a clear SAC during a critical period. It's that constant trade-off in alliance design, efficiency versus legitimacy.
So let's review the 6 mandates, the core job description for the SAC, because they really define the operational priorities.
Okay, they are fundamentally about unification and strategic management under extreme pressure. So first, the SAC must unify all military forces under one banner, overriding those historical dual loyalties we talked about.
2, coordinate regional commands, ensuring alignment across these immense geographical areas.
3, approve operational plans. This centralizes decision-making for complex missions. It's meant to prevent rogue operations.
4. Manage alliance-wide training, enforcing those critical joint standards, so setting the budget and schedule for massive multilateral exercises.
5th, direct crisis response. The SAC has to act as the singular voice of command during an emergency to minimize ambiguity.
And 6th, as we highlighted, the SAC must oversee nuclear consultation, which confirms this person sits at the apex of both conventional rapid response and ultimate strategic deterrence.
It's a massive portfolio of responsibility.
It is. So if the SAC represents the pinnacle of operational military power in Islamabad, then the Deputy Supreme Allied Commander, the SAC, based in Riyadh, represents the institutional gravity and the political conscience of the alliance.
I think that's a great way to put it. The DSA's role is far more than just a simple second-in-command waiting to step in. It is fundamentally about ensuring institutional balance across 3 critical dimensions. This is the core structural mechanism designed to prevent the alliance from fracturing along cultural or political lines.
Okay, so let's break down those 3 dimensions of balance that the DSE is there to enforce.
First, there's the balance between Arab and non-Arab states. Historically, major Islamic alliances have struggled with this perception of leadership. So placing the deputy role in Riyadh ensures that the core of the Arab world, particularly the Gulf nations, has direct, high-level institutional weight. It balances the powerful military command structure that's centered in South Asia.
And that's essential for funding and political commitment.
Absolutely. The second dimension is the balance between political leadership and military leadership. The SAC is a general focused on operations. The DSAC, by being in Riyadh, acts as a necessary bridge or institutional check. It links the operational military command back to the central political and economic hub of many key member states.
So it guarantees that military decisions are constantly reviewed for political acceptability and, I suppose, economic feasibility.
Yes. And the third dimension is arguably the most unique to this proposed structure, the balance between strategic defense and the security of sacred sites. Riyadh is central to the guardianship of the 2 holiest cities in Islam. By putting the DSAC there, the architects ensure this core religious and cultural mandate is permanently woven into the strategic priorities of the High Command.
It's not an afterthought, it's a structural priority.
Exactly. It reflects the alliance's dual mission of defense and protection.
It really sounds like the DSAC position is the anchor for legitimacy and political buy-in. It's making sure that military strength is always balanced by religious authority and geopolitical consensus.
Absolutely. The Islamabad-Riyadh dual structure is the definitive structural marker. It ensures that operational military strength is always checked by and accountable to political and religious legitimacy. If those 2 centers of gravity disagree, the alliance can't act, which forces consensus before you deploy anyone.
So below the commanders, we have the Collective Strategic Intelligence of the Alliance, the Joint Chiefs Military Committee, or JCMC. Its composition is the top generals from all member states, the Collective Brain Trust.
The JCMC is where the rubber meets the road on that pillar of harmonization we talked about earlier. You have forces ranging from, state-of-the-art air defense units to highly specialized counterinsurgency forces. Bringing them all to a common standard requires constant high-level interaction and, crucially, mutual trust.
So what are their primary functions beyond just consultation? I want to know how they actually achieve that technical standardization.
Well, their primary functions are strategic planning and standardization enforcement. This means developing the annual defense strategy and, crucially, harmonizing doctrines across these diverse national military.
So that must be incredibly complex.
To give you an idea, this involves agreeing on joint terminology, translating training manuals into common working languages, and aligning the fundamental philosophies of combat. Do they prioritize maneuver warfare or attrition? That has to be standardized.
That is a colossal political and technical undertaking. Different militaries have different historical patrons, some Western, some Eastern. They use different communication protocols, different logistical footprints.
Exactly. So the JCMC has to overcome these deep-seated institutionalized differences. They also propose joint exercises and drills specifically designed to test that harmonization. They review emerging threats collectively, synthesizing input from all their respective national intelligence services. And their most technical but vital function is supervising interoperability standards.
So if a JCMC general signs off on a joint doctrine, their nation has to commit the resources to meet that new shared standard. or the whole concept just fails?
It fails. So the JCMC transitions the alliance from a collection of national armies into a truly unified military entity, at least on paper. It provides that crucial link between the grand strategic vision of the SEC and the localized needs of the regional commands.
Okay, which brings us to the middle level.
Right. Once the Supreme Command sets the strategic direction, the system recognizes that the sheer geographical scope of the Muslim world, stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific, the Horn of Africa to Central Asia, it requires geographically distributed command,
Strategy has to be localized and specialized.
which is achieved through the definition of 5 specific regional commands, or REDCOMs.
And this distributed structure is essential. You can't command a theater of that size from a single location without major communication delays and a profound loss of localized understanding.
And that's why every regional commander reports directly and vertically to the Supreme Allied Commander in Islamabad. This ensures centralized control, but the operational command centers are strategically placed near their primary threats or assets.
Okay, let's look at the mapping and mission specific to each region because their locations are highly instructive.
Let's do it.
Starting in the core region, we have Central Command, CNET, Tashaman, headquartered, logically, in Riyadh.
Its area of responsibility, its AOR, covers the Gulf states and the Arabian Peninsula. The mission focus here is critically important globally. The protection of vital energy infrastructure, the oil and gas hubs that fuel the world economy, and rapid response for sacred sites.
This is where the mandate of the DSAC and the political commitment of the Gulf states become operationalized.
Absolutely. And that dual focus energy and faith makes this command arguably the most sensitive geopolitically. It's responsible for protecting assets that matter to the entire global economy.
And it must require incredibly tight coordination with that Sacred Sites Protection Force, the SSPF-MN, which we'll get to later.
Real-time coordination is expected. CUOMN provides the broad security umbrella, while SSPFMMN provides the dedicated, specialized religious protection mandate. The integration by proximity in Riyadh is not an accident.
Moving east, leveraging the main military HQ, we find South Asia Command, as they call them, MN, headquartered in Islamabad.
Its AOR is vast and complex, covering Pakistan, Bangladesh, the Maldives, and the Indian Ocean. The source material positions this as a major strategic necessity.
And the mission focus here is about strategic depth and maritime control in the critical eastern maritime routes.
This is a major defensive command. Strategic depth means securing the ability to fight a protracted conflict away from core infrastructure, while maritime control means securing vital trade arteries in the Indian Ocean.
So SACOM-MN protects the strategic flank of the alliance and controls access to those vast vital sea lanes leading through the Bay of Bengal and into the Middle East.
Which places a huge emphasis on naval power, long-range deterrence, and anti-submarine capabilities.
Next, we have the historical core and often volatile area of Middle East and North Africa Command, MENACOM-MN, based in Cairo.
This AOR covers major nations from the Nile to the Levant, including Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and North Africa. The mission focus is primarily on stabilizing the historical core of the region and managing large-scale regional security issues that frequently arise.
Internal conflicts, cross-border tensions, transnational insurgencies.
All of it. And Cairo is the natural choice due to Egypt's long-established military structure and its geographic position, linking the African continent and the Levant.
Stabilization in this AOR suggests a high demand for counterinsurgency expertise, joint border patrols, and humanitarian assistance capabilities, given the history of conflict there.
It demands a very high level of political sensitivity. Unlike the strategic deterrence focus of SACOM-MN, MENACOM-MN is focused on kinetic, day-to-day stability operations that require precision and non-escalation strategies.
Moving north, we have a distinct and geopolitically vital theater, Central Asian Command, ARCOM-MN, located in Tashkent.
This command is centered on the 5 stands Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan, and its mission focus is highly specific: coordination with Afghanistan and securing the northern flank.
Securing the northern flank is a direct nod to historical and current geopolitical pressures from the north. And Tashkent is an interesting choice, signaling an intent to anchor the alliance deep within that landlocked region.
This command is critical for managing border security and combating the proliferation of transnational threats originating from instability in Afghanistan, things like drugs, weapons, and militant groups. It requires a specialized focus on mountainous terrain warfare and counter-narcotics operations, very different from the coastal mandates of the other commands.
Finally, emphasizing global trade security, we have the Maritime and East Africa Command, MICOM-MN, headquartered in Djibouti. The choice of Djibouti is intensely strategic, given the number of international military bases already there.
It is, because its AOR is the Red Sea and the Horn of Africa. The mission focus is absolutely crucial. Maritime security missions, including anti-piracy operations and protecting maritime infrastructure.
Which highlights the critical choke points of global trade.
Specifically, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and access to the Suez Canal. The security of Bab el-Mandeb is a global imperative. Control or security of this area gives the alliance significant geopolitical leverage.
So we see 5 commands, each strategically placed and mandated to handle specific geographical and asset protection concerns, all reporting vertically up to the SAC in Islamabad. It's a distributed structure designed for centralized control, but with deep local knowledge.
And below the regional commands are the functional commands.
Right. If the regional commands handle where things happen, the functional commands handle how things happen with specialized capabilities. The structure aims for, and I'm quoting here, unmatched specialization, which suggests a very sophisticated focus on 21st century threats.
This functional layer is the structural proof that they are moving past conventional defense into hybrid warfare, high technology, and dedicated asymmetric response.
And what stands out here is the merging of highly conventional kinetic special forces with high-tech defense and those dedicated religious security missions. This is where that NATO plus Islamic blueprint is really realized operationally.
Let's start with the first one, the Special Operations Command, SOCMN. Its focus is on elite counterterrorism, hostage rescue, and high-risk operations. The source specifically names the composition. Joint forces drawn from SSG, Pakistan, Saudi, Turkish, Jordanian, and Malaysian elite forces.
That integration of specific national elite units is a massive undertaking. It requires them to cross-train, standardize equipment down to the rifle scope, and most importantly, standardize doctrine on the ground. A delay of 1 second due to miscommunication in an elite operation means failure.
The SOCMN is the spear tip. It's intended for precise, surgical, high-impact tasks.
Moving into the 21st century, we have the Cyber and Space Command, Cyberspace MN. The focus here is squarely on digital defense and maintaining operational dominance in non-kinetic domains.
This is a crucial command, recognizing that any major conflict will begin with cyber warfare. The mission is protecting alliance satellites, ensuring digital sovereignty, which means control over their own digital infrastructure and data, and securing communication networks across the alliance's immense geographical sprawl.
So Cyberspace MN is key to maintaining operational capability and command integrity when all those regcoms are so widely dispersed. And their primary task isn't just defense, but also ensuring they can communicate securely even if national fiber lines are cut or compromised. It's about redundancy and resilience.
Right. And then you have perhaps the most sensitive and structurally challenging functional command, the Intelligence Fusion Service, IFSMN. Its success hinges entirely on the willing, transparent integration of intelligence resources.
The mission is consolidating and fusing intelligence from major national agencies. And the source specifically names examples like ISI from Pakistan, GID from Saudi Arabia, MIT from Turkey, and various Mukhabarat services. This highlights the immense scale and sensitivity of the information sharing required.
And this is where I have a probing question for the blueprint. To truly fuse intelligence, you need a high degree of mutual trust. Intelligence agencies are, by definition, secretive and often competitive, even among allies. So how does the blueprint address this inherent trust deficit?
Well, the blueprint seems to implicitly answer this through the hierarchy we discussed. The IFSMN reports directly to the SAC, who is vetted by all member states and possesses that strategic nuclear knowledge. That vertical accountability, enforced by the highest level of trust, is supposed to override national suspicion.
So the IFSMN is meant to be the single source of truth for the alliance, feeding threat detection directly to the Supreme Command.
Its integrity is paramount to the entire structure's ability to act quickly.
Okay. Then we also have the Air Defense and Missile Shield Command, ADMSEMN, with a focus on comprehensive aerial and missile defense across the massive AOR.
The goal here is deeply ambitious: to create a unified Muslim equivalent of NATO air defense.
Imagine the sheer technical complexity of coordinating multi-layered missile defense systems supplied by dozens of different countries, American, Russian, Chinese, European. You have different radar bands, different interceptor types, and different command and control systems.
This requires massive investment in interoperable hardware, shared early warning satellites, and a common operational picture that can instantly identify a hostile launch and assign the nearest and most effective interceptor, regardless of what nation owns the battery.
Exactly. ADMSC-MN is designed to provide a protective ceiling for the entire alliance, shifting the defense strategy from national fragmentation to regional integration. It's a massive technical challenge that requires permanent training and massive data sharing.
Then there's the Rapid Deployment Force, RDFMMN, the Alliance's designated first responder. Its focus is fast, flexible reaction capability, the ability to project power quickly.
The RDFMN's mission is immediate response to large-scale invasions or major disasters anywhere within the Alliance's AOR. This force has to be constantly maintained at high readiness, transportable by air and sea, and capable of operating autonomously for a specified period.
They're the military equivalent of a global fire extinguisher.
That's a good way to put it. They're meant to stabilize a crisis before the regional commands can fully mobilize.
Which implies shared heavy transport assets and pre-positioned supply depots across the AOR.
And finally, we return to the unique mandate. The Sacred Sites Protection Force, SSPF-MN. Its focus is exclusive, non-negotiable security of holy sites.
This is where the structure is customized to that Islamic imperative, ensuring legitimacy. The SSPF-MN is a dedicated functional command for Makkah, Medina, and Al-Aqsa.
And by giving it its own functional command status, the architects ensure that the security of these sites is a primary non-delegable function of the entire alliance. It's separate from general military strategy or CMTCOM's broader mandate.
This structural decision provides crucial political reassurance to all member states and populations, confirming that the alliance's military might is tethered to the protection of shared religious heritage. So these 6 functional commands deliver the promised unmatched specialization, covering everything from elite kinetic operations in digital defense to immediate reaction and religious protection.
It's a comprehensive approach.
So we've defined the hierarchy and the specialized units. Now for the real test. What does this all mean when the alarm bell rings? Let's walk through the exact steps of the command chain in a high-stakes crisis scenario. This flow is where the structural design either proves its worth or collapses into that historical confusion.
And this sequence is designed to maximize speed and eliminate the friction that plagued past coalitions. It's a precise, structured funnel, ensuring information flows quickly up to the highest political and military levels, and coordinated action flows rapidly down to the relevant ground forces.
Okay, let's define a hypothetical scenario. A major hostile action, say, an attack on critical energy infrastructure and a vital maritime choke point in the Red Sea. That falls under the AOR of MECOM-MN. So, step 1, detection.
The initial threat is detected, likely through multiple sources, satellites, SIGINT, or patrols. All that data is immediately consolidated by the Intelligence Fusion Service, IFS-MN. The IFS-MN provides the unified, validated intelligence picture, overriding any potentially conflicting national reports.
Step 2 is the alert. The Unified Threat Assessment is sent immediately, vertically, to the Supreme Allied Command, SAC, in Islamabad. The operational military brain is the first to be fully notified and activated.
And then comes step 3, which is the critical institutional checkpoint, consultation. Upon receiving the alert, a joint session of the HQ in Islamabad and the HQ in Riyadh is convened immediately. This is not optional, it's mandated.
The SAC with the operational focus and the DAC with the legitimacy and political focus, they must align.
Yes, and let's focus on this step because this is the engineered friction point.
Right.
If the SAC determines that the rapid deployment response requires a kinetic action that carries a high risk of collateral damage or political escalation, for example, engaging naval forces near a sensitive border, the DSAC in Riyadh must sign off on the political and legitimacy risks.
So this consultation prevents rash action by the operational HQ. It ensures that the strategic military decision meets the required political and religious legitimacy threshold before committing the entire alliance.
Exactly. If the crisis involves a potential threat to CNCOM assets or, God forbid, sacred sites, the input from Riyadh is non-negotiable. This mandatory pause ensures that when action is taken, it is done with full institutional backing.
Okay, so assuming consensus is reached rapidly, we move to step 4, activation.
The SAC then issues the order to the appropriate regional command in our scenario, that would be MICOM-MN in Djibouti, to activate the necessary localized forces within its AR. MICOM-MN, having the best local understanding, begins marshaling national forces and pre-positioned alliance assets.
And then step 5 is where the specialization kicks in. Specialization and deployment.
Right. Relevant functional commands immediately receive their orders tailored to the threat. For a maritime attack scenario, this might involve the RDF-MN deploying air transportable elements to secure a nearby port.
And maybe SOCMN deploys elite maritime counter-terror teams to reclaim a captured vessel.
And Cyberspace-MN could be activated to neutralize the command and control systems of the adversary, while ADMSC-MN is placed on high alert to protect the MECOM HQ.
So you have multiple specialized commands, led by their dedicated professional generals, all now executing synchronized tasks under the direction of the regional commander who reports up to the SAC.
And finally, step 6, execution. The national forces integrated into the regional command alongside the specialized functional commands execute one unified plan. The chain of command is clear. IFS detects, SAC and DSC consult, RegPOMS command, and functional commands specialize.
It's a structure intended to ensure maximum speed and eliminate the historical friction points that cause delays in past joint military efforts. The flow is impressive on paper, a system designed to manage complexity by enforcing strict vertical reporting and that mandatory horizontal check between Islamabad and Riyadh.
Right.
So the architects of this system clearly studied past failures and built specific safeguards into every layer. What are the 5 core strengths that proponents claim will make this structure work, preventing it from becoming just another paper alliance doomed by political infighting?
These 5 points synthesize all the structural choices we've been talking about, emphasizing stability, cohesion, and efficacy over historical fragmentation. They are the core promise of the blueprint.
Okay, let's begin with the first strength, which is the structural solution to legitimacy.
That's 1, balance between military power and religious legitimacy. This is achieved through that essential Islamabad plus Riyadh dual structure. Islamabad provides the professional military expertise and strategic depth, especially when it comes to high-stakes deterrence. Riyadh provides the institutional authority and religious acceptance, which is critical for guaranteeing political and financial buy-in across the member states.
It's a structural guarantee of shared ownership.
It is. The second strength addresses the fear of domination by any single powerful nation within the alliance, which is a common killer of coalitions.
So 2, power is shared and distributed.
The structure deliberately ensures that no single country dominates. Power is distributed through committees like the JCMC and councils overseeing regional commands. This mitigates interstate friction by requiring collective decision-making, reinforcing the sense that the alliance is a collective security pact, not an instrument of
Democracy and confusion through communication clarity, a direct antidote to historical ambiguity.
3, clear vertical hierarchy. Strict lines of communication are established. Orders flow downward, always starting from the SAC to the regional and functional commanders. Intelligence and threat reports flow upward from the IFS and regional commanders to the SAC. This clarity is essential for rapid response, accountability, and avoiding the dreaded too many cooks syndrome.
The fourth strength goes directly back to that historical critique of political meddling in tactical situations.
4, professionalism over politics. This is perhaps the most difficult strength to enforce in practice, but it's a core value of the structure. Operational decisions are explicitly made by generals, military professionals, with the intention of insulating them from political interference.
So politicians define the strategic scope and provide the resources, but the tactical execution belongs solely to the integrated military command, shielded by the authority of the SAC.
That's the idea. And the final point brings it all back to the forces themselves, that promise of true interoperability.
5, trained, unified doctrine.
Yes. The entire structure mandates the development of a shared, integrated, disciplined, and modern force across all member states. The JCMC ensures standardization, the SAC mandates joint training, and the RegComs execute the unified doctrine. This promises to transform disparate national armies into a single, cohesive fighting unit capable of synchronized operations.
Fulfilling the very first strategic pillar identified right at the start.
That's the goal.
So today, we didn't just read an organizational chart. We built the skeleton of this proposed alliance. A massive, complex hierarchy designed for rapid, professional, and unified action. We track the flow of power from the Supreme Allied Commander in Islamabad, perpetually balanced by the institutional authority of the DSAC in Riyadh, down through 5 critical geographical commands and 6 specialized functional commands.
And the complexity of this structure is a direct response to the simplicity of past failures. The key structural innovation, I think, lies in that dual-layered check and balance system, the Islamabad-Riyadh axis. It's designed to ensure that operational capability is always paired with broad political and religious acceptance.
Without that structural backbone, the proposed alliance just collapses back into the ineffective, fragmented coalitions of the past.
Exactly. The architects understood that competence isn't enough. Legitimacy is the currency of longevity in a diverse alliance.
We have defined the hierarchy, the body's frame and the brain's function.
Yes, we have.
Which leads us directly to the next critical question, and it's building on the source material's implication. The source emphasizes that this structure, this command architecture, is merely the beginning. If the hierarchy is built, the next logical step is building the systems that fuel and enable it.
And this raises the crucial knowledge gap we must now explore. What complex systems, logistics chains, common funding mechanisms, standardized equipment procurement, joint maintenance protocols, what would need to be built next to truly integrate these highly specialized and geographically separated commands?
The skeleton is nothing without the muscle and the circulation system.
That is the true challenge of transforming a blueprint into a powerful, sustainable reality.